Hey everyone, and welcome to Story Behind the Resume. I'm Abu Saim, your host. For over 12 years now, I've worked in marketing technologies in the CPZ and QSR industries. Along the way, I have been fortunate enough to collaborate with many inspiring leaders, and I've always been intrigued by their unique journeys, the highs and the lows, the shifts and triumphs that have shaped their careers. You see, resumes often present an incomplete picture. They showcase the wins, the polished achievements, but what about the obstacles, the setbacks, the detours? Those are the experiences that truly define us. That's the reason I created Story Behind the Resume. I wanted to delve deeper, to uncover the authentic stories behind those perfectly formatted resumes. Because a career isn't simply a list of jobs, it's an evolving journey of growth, resilience, and self discovery. In every episode, I'll go beyond the job titles and explore the pivotal moments that have shaped my guests' careers. I'll uncover the valuable lessons learned, the challenges overcome, and the guiding principles that have driven their success. My sincere hope is that these stories will inspire you, encourage you, and remind you that your own career journey is unique and worth celebrating. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Michelle Hurlburt, who is known for her unique ability to quickly grasp nuanced human challenges, ask the right questions, and break them down into actionable steps that drive results. As a former educator, multiple time business owner, facilitator, and certified coach, Michelle brings extensive knowledge and skill in leadership and communication. She's the founder of 3D Life Inc., where she supports leaders and teams to enhance communication, sharpen emotional intelligence. Oops, sorry about that. And foster. Can you hear me now? My camera
Yes,
just dropped. Sorry about that.
the beauty of
12
being
years of
live.
exactly. With 12 years of national and international experience, Michelle is committed to helping individuals, organizations, and businesses grow by supporting the people within them to reach their fullest potential. Her approach is rooted in practical human strategies and conversations that lead to meaningful growth and lasting impact. Okay, let's dive in and explore our guest's career journey. Starting right from the beginning, we learn about her educational background, what she chose to study, and what ignited her passion for that field. Next, initial steps into the professional world, her very first job, and the factors that influenced her choice of role or industry. Lastly, we'll hear about some of the defining lessons and challenges she encountered early on in her career. Those crucial experiences shape her trajectory, whether you are a student, a recent graduate, or simply curious about the paths of successful professionals. This conversation is sure to offer valuable insights and inspiration for your own journey. So, without further ado, let's begin. Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Hi, Boo. Nice to see you. How are you
I
doing?
know you are in Nova Scotia. I think it's an afternoon, right?
Yes, yeah, it's 1
Okay,
p.m. here.
okay, okay. So let me correct myself. Good afternoon.
Yes.
um, Welcome to the show. Would you please tell us a bit of background for our listeners?
Well, thanks for having me here today. It's wonderful to be chatting with you. I my journey has been long and winding. I think that'll be something that comes out today during the conversation. Well, I started out in in education. I went to the Nova Scotia Teachers College and became a teacher. I got my Bachelor of Education many years ago. 1996, I graduated,
Mhm.
and I decided that at that point, the plan was for me to move back home after I graduated and get a job in a school. And in my fourth year, a few months before I graduated, I decided that wasn't what I wanted. That I didn't. I wanted to travel.
Hmm.
People, me and my classmates were talking about traveling and going to other places. So I ended up in South Korea, working in an English academy
Right.
to teach English as a second language, and from there went to the Philippines and taught in a Montessori school, and for several years as a classroom teacher and as a teaching principal. I was principal for 2 years there as well. Then the school that I was working in the Philippines, we were going to be closing down. There was a new school moving into the island I was living on, and my boss at that point said, I don't think that we can compete with them. So we merged with them, and I had the opportunity to work there with them. But I decided that I really liked the Montessori philosophy, but that could be a whole other conversation. What ended up happening was I became a PADI scuba diving instructor and taught scuba diving in the Philippines for a little over a year.
No way. Scuba diving. That's exciting.
Yes, yeah, it was exciting. I still think about those times, and it's actually a way that if my brain is spinning and I have a lot on the go,
Right.
I'll put myself back underwater and breathing and seeing all the beautiful creatures and underwater sights
Right.
just to calm my brain down. Um, so we did the scuba diving thing, and then went into started a restaurant while I was still in the Philippines, a Japanese and seafood restaurant.
Oh, a
So
restaurant.
I've been an
Must be
entrepreneur. Sorry.
a restaurant. That must be very. I would say a lot of work, right? You had partners with you.
Yes, it was a lot of work. It was a I had the big picture. I had the big idea for what I wanted it to be. It did
Right.
require having a couple of business partners along with myself and my partner at the time, and it was a lot of fun. We were great cooks. We did, and we knew that there was a gap in the market there, so we went full in and full on with opening a seafood restaurant, a Japanese and seafood restaurant, which ended up being two times in national magazines.
Wow.
We were featured twice, and then ended up moving back to Canada. The business partnership didn't work out,
Right.
and ended up moving back to Canada, opening a cafe, getting back into the public education system.
Amazing. Well, that sounds like a very interesting journey, and we're gonna obviously expand a little bit as we go along. So, all right, now that we have learned about your early career, let's delve into your professional evolution. We'll explore your significant milestones that shaped your trajectory, such as promotions, job changes, or perhaps even transitions to entirely new industries. And we'll discover the reasons behind your decisions, the risks that you embraced, and how those choices influenced your career path. Additionally, we'll hear about the essential skills you've cultivated to thrive at different stages of your career and your approach to continuous learning and development. It's fascinating how twists and turns in a career journey can often lead to unexpected and remarkable outcomes. Let's hear your story, Michelle, how you navigated these transitions and what you learned along the way. So, would you please share what are some of your major milestones, decisions, and skills you decided to develop?
It's a great question. It's a loaded question. There's a lot to unpack there. So essentially, I think one of the biggest decisions I made in my life that completely changed the plan was moving to Asia and working in Asia. But then opening the restaurant in the Philippines was a big shift. It was the first time that I had gone into business. It was the first time that I was running and managing and trying to wear multiple hats with the business. And it was also there was also the heartbreak of letting it go to move back to Canada. As I said, the business partnership didn't work out, and even though we tried to make it work and try to make it a win-win situation, it didn't happen. So that was a pivotal moment in my life and in my career, moving back to Canada from after being 8 years in Asia. When I got back to Canada, I realized that I wasn't really sure that I wanted to go back into the public school education system right away.
Right.
And so I opened a cafe. It was something that I knew, it was something that I enjoyed, and then ended up doing some interviews and getting back into the education system. My grade 3 teacher kept coming into the cafe and saying, you should go to the interviews at least and get that experience. Ending back, and ultimately I was successful and ended up back in the education system for the next 15 years. And running the cafe at the same time in the beginning, but realizing that I couldn't do it all and that it was okay to not do it all. So closing the cafe and really going full on in the education system in my career there for 15 years really led to some significant understandings about myself and really some significant learnings and growth opportunities within the education system, specifically around emotional intelligence, social emotional intelligence, and helping human beings develop. And while education is essentially a human development system or a human development business, quote unquote, it often is talked about from an academic perspective. And that was something that didn't necessarily drive me. I was more into the human development side of things. So within the last 5 years of my career in education, I decided I became a social and emotional learning coach. And so I helped coach and work with teachers and educators around how do we help students develop emotional intelligence skills of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management, and responsible decision-making. And what I realized was that after close to 5 years, I realized that, as adults, we don't have all of those skills ourselves. We weren't explicitly taught them. And so it was a big shift in my thinking when I started thinking more about the adults and how can we support adults in developing these skills. So in 2021, I resigned from my position in the education system, resigned from my career, and I went full-time at 3D Life Inc., which is we specialize in human skills development for businesses and organizations within leaders and teams to, again, promote those essential skills, but then, and also to help support leadership and effective communication so that people feel good at work, that they enjoy what they're doing, that they enjoy the people who are around them, and that they're able to interact with that idea of well-being and belonging at work. So
that's very, very inspiring. And I'm going to ask you a little bit about your decisions. So I can see that you moved from, scuba diving to restaurant to cafe to school. Was there any particular decision that you made and you said, maybe I should have decided somewhat different, or you needed a different kind of skill set that you didn't have and you had to develop?
Well, a lot of what drove me back then, when I was younger and making some of these decisions and kind of creating that squiggly line toward where I am now, I really thought about what do I want to do? What am I good at? What are my strengths? And I was really looking for the experience and the skills. And at that time, I wasn't thinking this way, but now I look back and I think, the skills that I learned, leadership skills, communication skills, the art of negotiation, all of these skills came up as a result of me doing a variety of things, even though they don't seem to connect. There's a lot of growth and experience that came as a result of doing those things. And so when I was making decisions back then, I was really thinking about, at that point, what do I feel like doing? What would be fun? What experience do I want to experience next? And as a younger person, I think that's something that it's okay to do at that point in your life, and really wanting to live and experience what, at that point I was in Asia, what the world had to offer, what I was learning culturally, what I was learning emotionally and socially at that time, really has led me on the track that I am now.
Right. It's very I would say I'm very inspired by this story because you were in a different country, right? Two different countries. Obviously, you had to learn some of those languages and culture. And obviously, those cultures are not similar to, nowhere near to North America.
No.
And even then, interacting with the local people and interacting with your customers, and especially in restaurants, where you must have learned or developed this, communication skills, which is really powerful in, how you communicate, especially in your negotiation skill, in your leadership skill, right? So, the way you pivoted from, experience from different countries, culture, and, over there, how you gained those experience and then applied it here when you came back is fascinating. I mean, really, how many people can do that? I don't know, but kudos to you. It's really remarkable.
Thank you. What it taught me was that my perspective is not the only one in the world. Right. How I grew up, how I was raised, the beliefs, the values, the things that it really opened my eyes to empathy and compassion and understand, understanding that there's a much wider perspective to be gained when we interact with a variety of people, diverse cultures and experiences really add to that development of self-awareness and understanding myself better as a result of interacting with and living and working among folks from different cultures in different countries. It's really an experience I highly recommend. Is getting out of our comfort zone. Exactly. and experiencing what else there is to experience in the world.
During my university time, I actually wondered, should I go to France and as an exchange student so that I can learn a little bit of French, because I was in Montreal where, I would say 80% people spoke French there, except in McGill where I went. Nobody really cared. It was mostly English, which kind of helped me because I'm from a different country. But I wondered a couple of times, like, hey, should I go for an exchange student? So I guess for those who are listening, if you had the chance to go over to another country for temporary work or even as a student in an exchange capacity, I think Michelle's example it proves that it has a lot of potential to gain new skills and develop new skills and then bring it back home, obviously, if the person comes back home. a couple of my friends never came back. They stayed back because they love Asia, but that's their choice. I mean, obviously they developed their skill set there and applied it there. But you coming back to Canada, giving back to Canada, it's really inspiring and very, I would say, fascinating to me. And I hope our viewers also and listeners are also finding it very, very interesting. So moving over to our next section, where we deep dive into your current role and your industry experience and insights. So we explored your early career. Now let's map your professional journey. Like, we'll uncover your pivotal moments that define your career. I guess you already said a few of them, but we were going to deep dive here, and we'll learn why you made those moves, some of the challenges you faced. It's amazing how unexpected turns can lead to incredible destinations, right? Like scuba diving in Philippines. Every time I think about it, I imagine myself, in a very peaceful, serene place. So let's hear your navigation, how you changes those, and your wisdom you gained along the way. So what's your take on it, specifically your current role as a certified coach and facilitator?
It's interesting because as I was getting into the early stage of my career as a social emotional learning coach, in the 5 years that I had there, I think I knew early on that it wasn't, we were focusing on students at the time, but it really wasn't about only developing those skills with the students, because we want the students to grow and develop. They have to have adults around them who are able to model and show those skills themselves.
Right.
So I knew that, again, it wasn't something that was going to be an easy thing to do, or easy thing to shift or to change. Right. There's a lot that goes. Us humans are very complex creatures, and we don't necessarily like change. But I also knew that for myself personally, what I was experiencing myself in my personal life and in my professional life, they were integrated. They went hand in hand. So I became a certified coach in 2018. I had gone on my own journey of self-discovery, and I started tapping into who am I and who do I want to be and what are my values and what makes me tick. And I knew that I couldn't be the only one, the only adult kind of wondering or wanting to grow and wanting to be better, do better, make a bigger impact, make a difference. So when I became a certified coach, I started my business part-time while I was still working full-time in the school system. And in 2021, as I said, 2020 with COVID coming into play, there was a lot of time to really dig into, what matters, what do I really want to be doing in my life? And I knew that I wanted to be in business, and I knew that I wanted to do this work. To support adults. So in making that decision at the end of 2020, I actually was working with a coach at the time. And one of the questions that they asked me was, how much longer do you want to be doing what you're doing versus jumping into what you want to be doing? And I realized that I was just kind of holding back and waiting for the right time, and the right time wasn't going to come. And so I had been setting myself up to make the change. And I said, I'm going to do it. I handed my resignation letter in at the beginning of January 2021 and said on March 25th will be my last day. And then I took the leap. And so as a coach now, and a facilitator, I do training and development facilitation as well. I look at everything that I've experienced from the time that I made that decision to go to Asia, everything that I've done and every decision I've made, and even the mistakes that I've made in the process, which don't really think of them as mistakes. I think of them as lessons, because
yes,
they've just helped me grow and expand. I look at them, everything that I've done in the last 25 years has culminated to me being where I am right now, doing what I'm doing. And that wasn't without risk. That wasn't without challenge. There was a number of times where I thought, oh gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Should I, am I really this person? Can I run this business? Can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And, always coming back to, what are my values? What's that vision? And holding on to that big picture of, I think I want to be part of helping workplaces and individuals and leaders and teams shift so that they are fulfilled at work, they feel safer, they feel like they belong, but also that they are, that businesses and organizations are, feel like they're more productive, and that, they're able to attract people into their businesses and organizations and keep them there, because they've developed a workplace environment where people enjoy being and love what they do.
So the leap of faith that you took and the risk, finally, you decided that, okay, I'm going to take the risk no matter what. Was there any support around you? Did anybody inspire you? Like, where did you get the courage mainly?
I feel like a much of it was from myself. Much of it was driven by the vision that I had for what I want to create and what I want to build and who I want to impact, like the difference that I want to make. So that's a really inspiring thing for me. Growth is one of my core values, and it's growth for myself, growth at personal value, but it's also one of the values of my company. And so it's for others too. I knew that at some point I was going to do this full time. And so I had started putting money aside. So I did have a bit of a buffer account, so that, I know that first year of business and really first couple of years, I started my business full time and during COVID. And so I had that buffer. My husband is extremely supportive and was, do what you need to do, and I'll support you.
Wow.
He's been one of my biggest cheerleaders. I was afraid, I will admit this, I was really nervous about telling my mom and dad that I was leaving my career and starting this business.
Kudos
and they surprised me.
It takes a lot of courage again. Like, that's why I asked you a question. How did you end up? But I just want to touch base on a little bit of your planning. That you saved up for a bit. I want to ask you how long that took. How long have you been saving or preparing or planning? Because a lot of people wants to, like, including myself, I want to open a business. How long should I plan for? Obviously, it depends on different industries, but just I want to bring it in front of our viewers and listeners. How long did you plan and prepare for it, and then finally you launched?
Yeah, so I planned on the financial side. I started tucking away money a couple of years before I actually took the leap. Right. I knew that for myself personally, like, some people talk about, if you're not happy, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, just leave and start something, start from scratch. Right. And I knew for me, I'd love to be able to do that. But the reality was I also have bills and I have things that I need to take care of. And for myself personally, taking the leap was it wasn't as big of an act of courage as it wasn't as big of a leap as an act of courage because I had planned a little bit more. I felt for myself personally that was the best way for me to go about doing it. Now, that might be different for other people, but yeah, it certainly was. It certainly was something that I needed to do for myself and for my family.
Amazing. Really great to hear that you prepared yourself and finally took the leap of faith. So the main message here is preparation is key, planning is key, just like any projects. When you are revamping something in your life, I guess preparation and planning does pays off. And now I think you are very well, doing well in your current role, and really doing. I have heard many things from our colleagues, right? Like from Ingrid, and so kudos to you. I guess thanks for sending, sharing that message that let's make sure we prepare well, we plan well before we do something, and not impulsive, because that sometimes backfires. Okay, so I guess we saw some commentary, and thanks, Dolores, for sending that sweet message. You just gave us a cover letter of your resume. Great. In terms of industry trends, and I know you are in coaching and helping out leaders with emotional intelligence and all. What kind of industry trends that you follow, or you keep yourself up to date, because you are a coach yourself, so you have to come up with those techniques. Is there anything that you can share?
Yes, so there is a framework that I use within the company, within the coaching space. But again, growth is one of my core values. So I really lean into research and, looking at Harvard Business Review and Forbes, Gallup reports, and the World Economic Forum reports. Those are things that I help to keep myself up to date on, some of the trends and things that are happening in the industry. We talk about AI, and AI is a big topic right now.
Yeah.
It's big is an understatement, but AI is huge, and it's going to continue to be huge over the next however many years, but it will continue to grow. It will continue to evolve. Where I come from a 3D life perspective, is that the human beings are still going to be around. We're still going to need effective leadership. We're still going to need folks to be able to communicate clearly and to show empathy. And some of the trends that are, not that it's trending now, but these are like the skills that leaders are really have always needed are adaptability, emotional intelligence, obviously communication, being able to keep up with the data and the new technology that's happening, that's going on. It always comes back to the human being, and who are you? Who do you want to be? How do you show up? And that's not going anywhere. And in fact, I believe the more complex that human beings are complex, but the more complex the market becomes, the more complex businesses and organizations become, and we are going to need people. We need people in those positions and in those workplaces who are able to hold people together and inspire them and lift them and help them be all that they can be, while being adaptable to the changing markets and trends. So leadership is more important than ever before. But it's really, there's a human aspect to it that is a current trend that is happening in 2024 and will continue. Human leaders are the way we need to go. And when we can work with teams, and when we can work with folks on their communication and their collaboration skills, that's really going to make a big impact to how businesses and organizations are productive or not, how they retain or attract folks or not. and ultimately the bottom line. You know, how successful is your business or organization? It all comes back to people.
Right. So to wrap up this section, what I heard are some of the keywords are, in order to keep up with the industry insights or trends, you read reports and follow, especially World Economic Forum's report and other economic reports. So that's amazing advice for people who are professionally growing. So thanks for sharing that. We'll move to the next section, which is what a lot of my listeners really value, is advice for career growth. So let's uncover those valuable insights that you have been sharing so far. Truly how those in real life truly propels your career forward. Some of the advices you received from your side, and what are the crucial skills and qualities maybe needed to succeed in your field. Like maybe you can give us some example that actually helped you. And second topic, obviously, within the next section is networking and mentorship. How it shaped your journey. Was there any mentor that you had, or a coach, a regular coach you had, any idol that you had? And a great opportunity to learn about building relationships and gaining wisdom from experienced professionals are key into being successful, right? So, Michelle, I think our listeners would love to hear your thoughts on this, mainly advice for them and any advice for around networking and mentorship.
One of the best pieces of advice that I ever got from a former employer of mine that really helped shift my thoughts on my career and how, like, who I was and how I would show up in the world was, at first, it was at a time where I thought that I needed to move, that I needed to be somewhere else other than where I was. And this employer looked at me one day when I was sharing this with them, and they said, it doesn't matter where you go. If you're not good with you won't be good anywhere.
Right.
So, and for me, that meant I needed to learn more about myself, and self-awareness as a leadership skill is, and for anybody, leader or team or whomever, is the foundational, from my perspective, in my opinion and experience. Self-awareness is absolutely key. And so if anything, developing your own self-awareness as a leader, as a team member, as a business owner, is absolutely critical to the success that you generate, the opportunities that you generate, how you interact and show up in the world with yourself, but also with others. So that is key.
And 100% agree. I remember from one of my early years at Nestle, where my manager actually told me one of the pillars of Nestle was to develop yourself in self-awareness, and I had zero concept on that. And I'm like, what is self-awareness? I mean, I am aware myself, I'm here, but there's so many other things. So thanks for putting that out. It reminded me of my past, where I had to focus on it and develop myself. Please continue.
Yes. No, thanks for that. That's a great story. Another thing that was really important for me was leaning into trying new things and not being so stuck in everything has to look exactly like the way that I planned it. Everything has to be on the path that I have in my mind. Because I tried different things, because my journey was squiggly, so to speak, I learned so much about myself, but I learned so much about the world and others. And had I just stayed on the straight and narrow plan of what I thought my life was going to look like, I would never have had the experiences or come to discover. I can't say never. Maybe I would have somewhere gotten here, but I certainly wouldn't be the person or the coach or the facilitator that I am today without all that I've done. So trying new things, trusting yourself to, go outside of the box a little bit, because you can always come back. You can always get back on the path.
Yep. And break the there is a saying that status quo, break the status quo, and I'm a big advocate for that. Like anywhere I work, or even in personal life, I try to do things differently. So really thank you for sharing that. I hope that helps our viewers and listeners in some way, and how it actually helped. That thanks for describing that. And then maybe we can shift focus on networking and mentorship. Like, how did you leverage that in your career?
So over the last 3.5 years, it'll be 4 years in March that 3D Life began full time anyway. I have met lots of people. I've reached out to people, I've invited people, because as a human centered business, coaching is really about like bringing out the human potential in people. Right. So I'm very human centered focus in my business, and the only way that this business, my business at least, was going to work is who do I need to meet? Who do I need to talk to? Right. What connections can I make? And it sounds like a strategic, it's very strategic when Michelle invites me to call. There's a purpose behind it. Right. But it's really about developing relationships, and it's really about learning about other people and other folks and what they're doing, just as much as it is about them learning about what I'm doing and who I am. Right. And conversations is what drives this business. Making connections, networking, getting out to events. Thank goodness in-person things came back, because that's really where the energy, like there's a very different energy when you're in person with people than when you are online. Online's great, and it's a good alternative, but there's nothing like being in a room with people and meeting them in person.
Totally agree on that. If you are not in Nova Scotia, I would have done this session in person. But totally agree on that.
Yes. And mentoring, finding people who are, even 10 steps ahead of where you are, learning from them and asking for their advice. I've been very fortunate to have a number of people around me that ones whom I've met, but then others who that I've sought out and really looked at, how can this person help me in my business? I have a business mentor and coach that I work with, and she's just been phenomenal in terms of helping me maintain the energy and the identity of being a business owner. And what does it take to be a CEO of a company? What does it take? Like, what's looking deeper into my business? And that's really where I have found that I've needed the support, is really around keeping it all together. I'm a solopreneur. I'm a one person company at the moment, but wearing all of the hats is challenging sometimes. And so remembering what are the priorities, and her mentorship has been really fundamental to that. Plus, I have some great clients that I work with who inspire me in every conversation that we have. And that certainly keeps me going.
Amazing. And I can totally resonate, because myself, I'm a very introvert person. I'm a bit shy, but I took some actions to make sure that I go out and make meaningful connections with people out there, just for the sake of knowing them, first of all, and then also sharing my experience with them to see if it matches. Sometimes I did have trouble walking up to a higher level VP or CEO, because I'm scared. I'm like, oh, what is he going to think about? But as soon as I, broke it once, I'm like, okay, after all, he's a human being. I found out that actually, top level who have achieved something like a VP or a CEO, a higher level in a company, they are willing to talk to you if you have that, if you have that interest and encouragement, right? So I had that firsthand as one of my experience that I want to share. Okay, so Michelle, I want to switch to a bit of a fun event. I call it rapid fire question and answer. So we're going to quickly ask you, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you have to answer in like 2-3 words or even one sentence. That way it's rapid, right?
Okay, I'll try.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Cool, cool. Okay, so what's the best career advice you have ever received?
The best career advice I've received has been work for your business, but make sure your business works for you.
Awesome. A book or podcast that influenced your career?
I have a couple. I love books. I learn from books too.
Yes.
One of them is Brene Brown's I Thought It Was Just Me, but It Wasn't. And the other professionally was for The Resonant Leader.
Awesome. One skill everyone should learn?
Self-awareness.
Amazing. A mistake that taught you the most?
A mistake. I have a hard time coming. Mistakes. Communicating when I am not calm.
I see. Yeah, that's hard to control. When you're angry or you're agitated, that's something even I try to recover myself. And if you could do one thing differently in your career, what would it be? I mean, you have done a lot of different things, so this question seems to be a little bit like, okay, you are up for it.
I don't know that I would change a whole lot. Maybe starting to learn about myself sooner.
So,
Yeah, I think that would be my like building my self-awareness sooner than I did
right.
would be the one.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was a fun a few questions. Any final thoughts or words of encouragement for our listeners and viewers?
Essentially, as you know, my journey is a great example, but things don't have to always be the way that we expect them to be or want them to be. In fact, there's so much to learn beyond the path or beyond that picture of what we think things should look like. And we don't really have control over all of the things that impact it. So learning what is within your control and what is not,
right.
And being able to accept and acknowledge that sometimes that's uncomfortable, but trusting yourself that you can work through it and do it is probably a key piece of advice that I could give.
Thanks so much, Michelle. All right, so before we wrap up, I want to recap some of the key takeaways from our call today. I was making notes as we are conversing. Some of the key ones were try different things, trust yourself, and then plan and prepare yourself before you take an important decision in your life. Obviously, have some coaches, have open-minded to network with people. Those are other advices. And one of your advice I remember, and I'll take it myself as well, to be self-aware, because that's something you constantly need to work on. Otherwise you go out of practice. So I guess those are the key takeaways. A huge thanks for tuning in to our show, to my show, Story Behind the Resume. Want to learn more about our awesome guests or connect with future speakers? Make sure to follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll find the links in the description. And guess what? We are planning even more amazing sessions with folks from tech, marketing, finance, and more, all sharing their career stories and advice. So don't miss out. Hit that follow button on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The handle is at Story Behind a Resume. Love listening on the go. We'll be publishing this session in podcast as well on Apple and Google Podcasts tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Follow us on LinkedIn to stay updated on new episodes and podcast releases. And hey, if you are a pro with cool career story to share, we want to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn and let's chat about featuring you on Story Behind a Resume. Thanks again for joining us. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories that go beyond the resume. Keep learning and keep exploring. Thank you, Michelle, for being my guest. It was an honor.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.